Welcome to Arizona, a place most think of as a scorching expanse of sand and cacti, but in reality is so much more. This is a place that actually holds the largest continuous pine forest on the planet. It's also a place where an original 1830s stone bridge was dismantled in London, England, and shipped across the ocean to be rebuilt in the middle of the desert. From a remote village at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, where the mail is still delivered by pack mules, to a towering 185-foot waterfall that flows like a roaring river of chocolate milk. Here are 15 incredible geography facts you never knew about the Grand Canyon state. Grand Falls, affectionately known as the Chocolate Waterfall, is a towering 185-foot cascade located on the Little Colorado River. Standing roughly 18 feet taller than Niagara Falls, this incredible waterfall was formed about 100,000 years ago when a massive lava flow from the nearby Miriam crater dammed the river, forcing the water to carve a new, dramatic path over the canyon wall. Now, because it's fed primarily by spring snowmelt from the White Mountains and late summer monsoon rains, it only flows a few weeks out of the year. But when it does, the churning water carries tons of desert soil and red clay, creating a thick, muddy cascade that perfectly mimics a roaring river of chocolate milk. But before you race off to go see it yourself, you should know that the site is located on sovereign Navajo Nation land, and the tribe closed public access to Grand Falls in 2023 to protect the fragile ecosystem from over-tourism. When most people think of Arizona, they're probably picturing a flat, scorching desert. But the state's topography is actually incredibly dramatic. Arizona's elevation plunges to just 70 feet above sea level near the Colorado River in Yuma, and then skyrockets to 12,633 feet at the snowy alpine summit of Humphreys Peak near Flagstaff. This massive 12,000-foot gradient creates a wildly disparate biome. You can drive from a sun-baked saguaro cactus forest to a freezing subalpine tundra in under 3 hours. Because of this extreme elevation difference, Arizona occasionally experiences a bizarre meteorological event. On certain clear, dry days in the fall or spring, the state will simultaneously record the highest and lowest temperature in the entire contiguous United States, often with Flagstaff freezing, while the low elevation deserts bake. Despite its global reputation as a desert, Arizona is fundamentally defined by its mountains. In fact, the state officially boasts 3,928 named mountain peaks and summits. Put that in perspective, that is more mountains than you will find in many states famous for their alpine terrain, including Colorado, Montana, Idaho, and Utah. This is largely due to the basin and range topography that dominates the southern and western parts of the state, where parallel mountain ranges suddenly rise thousands of feet out of the flat desert floor. These isolated peaks are known to geographers as sky islands, high elevation forested refuges that harbor distinct ecosystems and wildlife populations entirely cut off from one another by harsh, unlivable desert basins below. The northern half of Arizona shatters every desert stereotype by housing the largest continuous strand of ponderosa pine trees on the planet. Stretching for hundreds of miles from the New Mexico border, across the Mogollon Rim, and past Flagstaff, this massive alpine forest covers over 2.4 million acres. The Mogollon Rim itself is a massive geological fault line that cuts diagonally across the state, abruptly lifting the land thousands of feet into the air. This sudden rise catches moisture from passing storm systems, allowing dense forests to thrive where cacti otherwise would. If you walk through this forest on a warm day, the peeling bark of the ponderosa pines release a distinct sweet scent that smells exactly like vanilla or butterscotch. Around 50,000 years ago, during the Pleistocene epoch, the northern Arizona landscape was struck by a 150-foot wide nickel-iron meteorite, traveling at roughly 26,000 miles per hour. The resulting impact exploded with the force of 20 million tons of dynamite, instantly vaporizing the meteorite and excavating a massive bowl in the planet. Today, Barringer Crater, commonly known as Meteor Crater, measures nearly 4,000 feet across and 560 feet deep. Because the Arizona climate has been overwhelmingly dry since the last ice age, the crater has suffered very little water erosion, making it the best preserved meteorite impact site anywhere in the world. In the 1960s, NASA even used the rugged lunar-like basin to train Apollo astronauts before their missions to the moon. Just as Arizona's big crater survived thousands of years of erosion, you don't want your hard-earned money eroding away in a traditional savings account. Enter today's sponsor, Chime. Chime is America's #1 choice for banking, built to make your money work harder for you. You see, most people leave free money on the table in traditional accounts. But with Chime, you can earn 3.7% APY on savings, which is 9 times the national average of 0.38% APY. That means that $10,000 sitting in a standard account earns just $38 a year. But with Chime, that same $10,000 earns $382 a year, all with 0 monthly fees or minimum balance requirements. Here's what I've personally done. After I opened my account, I set up direct deposit so I get paid up to 2 days early. I also use their automatic splits to instantly route a portion of every paycheck straight into savings. And that's it. Now my money is making more money, all without me needing to lift a finger. This, combined with 5% cash back in a category of my choice, like gas or groceries, I'm getting real money back on spending what I'd have already spent. So head to the top link in the description or scan the QR code to join millions banking fee-free through Chime today. Thanks to Chime for supporting the show. Now let's get back to Arizona. If you rewind the geographic clock a few hundred million years, Arizona wasn't a desert at all. It was the floor of a shallow, tropical prehistoric ocean. During the Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras, repeated marine transgressions flooded the region, depositing hundreds of feet of sediment. Today, the evidence is literally baked into the landscape. The iconic towering red rocks of Sedona and the upper rim of the Grand Canyon are packed with the fossilized remains of ancient aquatic life. Hikers regularly stumble upon preserved shells of brachiopods, ancient sponges, corals, and trilobites sitting thousands of feet above sea level, proving that the sun-scorched canyons were once thriving underwater ecosystems. In 1856, the geography of the American Southwest was so harsh and unforgiving that the U.S. War Department, led by Jefferson Davis, initiated one of the strangest military experiments in history, the U.S. Camel Corps. Realizing that horses and mules required too much water to effectively patrol the arid Arizona territory, the army imported dozens of camels from Egypt and Turkey. The camels performed brilliantly. They could carry massive loads, eat thorny desert scrub, and go days without water. However, the experiment was ultimately abandoned when the Civil War broke out. The animals were sold or turned loose into the wild, leading to decades of bizarre sighting. Feral camels were reportedly spotted roaming the remote Arizona wilderness as late as the 1940s. Today, there are no more wild camels. Over the decades, due to their original small population, they likely faded away entirely, as they weren't able to reproduce fast enough. One of the most bizarre geographic relocations in human history happened in the late 1960s. The city of London, England, realized that their famous 1830s stone bridge was sinking into the River Thames under the weight of modern traffic. Robert P. McCulloch, the eccentric founder of Lake Havasu City, Arizona, purchased the bridge at auction for $2.4 million. He had the bridge meticulously dismantled, with every single granite block numbered. The stones were then shipped through the Panama Canal to California, then trucked into the sweltering Arizona desert. McCulloch reassembled the bridge over a man-made canal connected to the Colorado River. The brilliant geographic marketing stunt worked, making the London Bridge in Arizona a permanent tourist destination. Though it should be noted that the London Bridge is not the Tower Bridge of London, a common error made by visitors expecting to see a tall towered bridge. Generally, the US Civil War was an eastern half of the continent battle, but the rugged geography of the Sonoran Desert also hosted a bloody conflict. On April 15th, 1862, the westernmost military engagement of the Civil War occurred at Picacho Pass, a prominent volcanic spire located about 50 miles northwest of Tucson. A small Union cavalry patrol from California collided with a detachment of Confederate Rangers from Texas, who had occupied the territory. The skirmish only lasted an hour and a half, resulting in 3 Union deaths. But it had massive geographic implications. It successfully halted the Confederate push to secure a permanent overland route to the Pacific Ocean, effectively ending the Southern campaign in the West. Because state lines in the American West were drawn by surveyors on flat maps rather than following natural geographic boundaries like rivers or mountain ranges, Arizona shares a unique geometric anomaly. It's the only place in the United States where 4 distinct state borders intersect at a single perfect point: Arizona, Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico. This coordinate, the intersection of the 37th parallel north and the 109th meridian west, was surveyed in the late 1800s. Today, a granite and brass monument maintained by the Navajo Nation marks the exact spot, allowing tourists to technically place their hands and feet in 4 different states simultaneously. Interestingly, modern GPS reveals the original 19th century surveyors missed the exact mathematical intersection by about 1,800 feet. Geography still dictates daily life for the Havasupai tribe, who have lived deep within the western Grand Canyon for over 1,000 years. Their capital, Supai, is widely considered the most remote community in the contiguous United States. There are no roads leading to the village, no cars, and no airstrip large enough for cargo planes. The only way in or out is a rough 8-mile dirt trail that drops 2,000 feet down the canyon walls. Because of this extreme isolation, Supai is the last remaining place in the country where the United States Postal Service delivers mail via a train of pack mules. Every single day, a team of over 100 mules makes the trek, hauling Amazon packages, medicine, and fresh groceries to the canyon floor. Before the invention of widespread air conditioning allowed millions of people to move to the desert, the human settlement and economy of Arizona were entirely dictated by its raw geographic resources. This foundation is historically known as the 5 Cs: copper, cattle, cotton, citrus, and climate. Early settlers mined the rich volcanic mountaintops, grazed cattle on the high grasslands, grew water-intensive crops near the river, and capitalized on the endless sunshine to attract early tourists and military air bases. While the modern economy has shifted towards tech and healthcare, the geographic legacy remains firmly intact. Today, thanks to massive open pit operations like the Morenci mine, Arizona still produces over 60% of all copper in the United States. Through one of the most extensive human geographic engineering projects in history, the scorching desert city of Yuma has been transformed into an agricultural powerhouse. Yuma receives only about 3 inches of rain per year, but it boasts over 350 days of intense sunshine. By diverting billions of gallons of water from the nearby Colorado River through a massive network of gravity-fed canals, farmers have turned the desert sand into highly fertile soil. Because it stays incredibly warm during the winter, while the rest of the country freezes, Yuma practically monopolizes the American salad bowl. Between November and March, a staggering 90% of all leafy greens, including lettuce, spinach, and kale, grown and consumed in the United States, comes from this single desert region. In the foothills of the Santa Catalina Mountains in Oracle, Arizona, scientists attempted to replicate the entire geography of Earth in one location. Built in 1991, Biosphere 2 is a massive 3.14-acre sealed greenhouse designed to test if humans could survive in a closed ecological system. This was considered essential research for future space colonization. The structure contains a meticulously engineered miniature ocean with a living coral reef, a dense rainforest, a savanna, a mangrove wetland, and a fog desert. In its first major mission, 8 researchers sealed themselves inside for 2 full years. While the original experiment suffered from dropping oxygen levels and a massive ant infestation, Biosphere 2 remains the largest artificial ecology ever built, and is still used today for climate research. It also spawned one of the most memorable movies of the 1990s, Biodome. You really can't understand the human geography of Arizona without understanding its indigenous roots. Over 27% of Arizona's total landmass, more than any other state in the country, is legally designated as sovereign Native American reservations. The state is home to 22 federally recognized tribes whose cultures are inextricably tied to the landscape. The largest of these is the Navajo Nation, which occupies a massive portion of northeastern Arizona and extends into Utah and New Mexico, covering an area larger than the state of West Virginia. Interestingly, it also fully surrounds the reservation of the Hopi. These lands are home to some of the most iconic natural geography in the world, including Monument Valley and Antelope Canyon, which are managed entirely by the tribes rather than the federal government. It's easy to dismiss Arizona as a hot, sweltering desert, but when you start to look beyond the sand, You'll find one of the most interesting states in America, and one that has something for almost everyone. Once again, for a limited time, you can get a full free month of ad and sponsor-free videos, extra geography articles, and a free digital world map of the Köppen climate classification by going to my site, thebite.co, and subscribing. Link is in the description below. I hope you enjoyed learning all about Arizona. If you did, be sure to check out this video all about California's weird islands. Thanks for watching. See you next time.